located along the bisecting angle of the 4K area boundary lines within 15 feet of the intersection of the 4K area corners. The fifth test pit shall be located as close to the center area of the 4K area as is reasonable. The purpose of this section, 203-1 lots 3, is to augment Code of Administrative Rules 1006.04, number of test pits in the New Hampshire Code of Administrative Rules. Any other provisions not mentioned in this section contained with ENVWQ 1006.04 will also apply to test pit data to be provided by the applicant.
So in the Code of Administrative Rules, in the ledge lot section, they do talk about the need for additional test pits. However, it's kind of hanging out there as to who's going to decide that. So I would just wanted us to know that if a ledge lot comes in, your 4K area is going to be proofed pretty well. And then, in addition to that, the state wants a downgradient. They want downgradient extra test pits dug. So not only would they have to find the 5 in the 4K, they'd have to find downgradient. They'd have to find some more test pits to satisfy the state. And that section that has to do with the alternate leach fields is only it's on subdivisions, but it's talking about not a single-family residential. So I don't know if it means a duplex, but it says an area shall contain one or more areas on which one or more EDAs designed to accept the proposed flow can be installed. That's in 105.02 lot size. So yeah, Pelham looks for an alternate leach field area because we have failures, but most of the time I see the failures get replaced in place. Yeah. I haven't seen too many move, but
depends on the system you replace it with too. It depends on the system, the type of system you replace it with too.
Yeah, and usually it's the old ones are usually pipe and stones that have just bedded out, bed bottoms, so they can be brought back to life. That's usually abuse. But we have not this board, but I've seen some proposals coming in with some lots with extremely shallow bed test pits. So right away we want to grab those as being a ledge lot, and in this way we'll maintain some of these larger areas in the outer perimeter of the town where the topography starts to get higher and you find more ledge.
Yeah.
It's usually to the north. Your section is called the north. I have to have a map in front of me to look at things. But I'm in the southeast, and it's ledgy down where I am, and it's ledgy up in the other corner of town. So the 1 acre pie cuts, they're not going to be able to happen. They shouldn't happen. It's a whole different animal. It's a very diverse town. I don't know if you find that a lot in New Hampshire.
Yeah, a lot of towns are like that.
You find that?
Yep. You'll have ledge on one side and sand in the middle or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're not unique. So what do you think of that last read?
I don't disagree with it. I just try to, like I said earlier, I have to come at it from a couple different perspectives. One is just cost to the developer, if it's a big developer, I think these restrictions have to, don't waive them. But if it's, mom and pop, I think it's, to have, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars added to their subdivision, it's just a tough situation. I'm just trying to think through it practically.
Well, this is where I see this happening is if a new subdivision comes in and they start scratching rock, they're going to have to provide some more test pits for the 4K areas. The rest of the lot can be what it is.
Of course.
But we're just looking to get a 4K area that's got some natural cover on it.
Yep. again, practically speaking, from the surveyor point of view, it's steps that we don't normally take as far as like, we don't lay out the 4K area. We just go out with, we'll lay out a test pit, a proposed test pit. So to locate these within that 4K area box, it's just practically, I'm just trying to think through it. I don't disagree. In fact, this is close to what the state requires anyway.
It is. And if they hit 2 4 27 inches up here in the northwest.
Yep.
Whoa, you better put some more pits in here.
Yep.
So that's what we're trying to do, because we see some pretty clever, not all the engineers that come in here are as good as some, all engineers that come in here. And they're working for their client, and I don't blame them. But we're working to safeguard our job is to protect the water resource in this town. And there's 4,900 people in this town, I think, that have private water wells. And I know that septic on ledge can move fast and far. I know that from personal experience. It can run fast and far. It can travel hundreds of feet, if not longer, laden with bacteria and E. coli and everything else. So we're just trying to get it right. There's no fooling around here, and anybody that's listening, we're not getting into better land in Pelham. We're getting into worse land. And future planning boards have to have the tools to apply reasonable rules, because they're not seeing the nice subdivisions anymore. We're seeing some tough ones. Every subdivision that's out there, you hear a hammer running. If you go outside of the center of town 2 miles.
I think this was mentioned earlier, but I wrote a sentence. At least 2 test pits within the proposed 4K area must show a minimum of 48-inch depth to ledge in order for a lot to be considered for subdivision.
Right. Right. But sometimes we'll see one test pit in a 4K area.
Right. Well, most towns require that, and the state requires that.
But we're going to I think we're in alignment with the intent of the state, because of the state, when they set out their purpose and intent in their Code of Administrative Rules, it's all about the water, protecting the water in New Hampshire. But as you know, the state just lax their rules on height over seasonal. So we don't have to go there. If we say, no, we're not going there, we didn't write that in. We didn't write in that you have to be 3 or 4 feet over seasonal high. We're going to go with the state at 2 feet, but at least have 4 feet of dirt, have 2 more feet of dirt under that, Does everybody see where I was trying to go with this?
Yep.
I know how to beat the system too, because I was in the system.
Well, you're a groundwater guy, right? I'm a groundwater guy. I think it's important.
And I've worked for the client, and you can do it right today. We have the technology to do it right, but we have to start from the beginning with, and we're not getting better and better subdivisions. We're getting worse and worse soil types. So we're going to ask the engineer that we hire. We have a new, Atlantic is on, you know that. You folks will be working together. We're going to ask, if we see a problem, I know my time on this board, I'm going to say, take a close look at these soil types that are being displayed here. And if we have to step in and be the state's babysitter and do what the state is required or supposed to have required to do, where it's not the overlaid district soil types, then extra testing is supposed to be done. We'll send you out to see that it is what was reported, because the number one rule of a designer or an installer or designer is you better find what the next guy is going to find, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you don't.
That's amen.
Okay.
And I think that's all we had for Jim and I.
All right.
And I appreciate, thank you, Brendan, for your feedback on that, too.
There was One thing that I had brought up at one of the last meeting,
This is a zoning change, Mr. Chairman?
no, it was not. It was in, I looked at section 304, the applicability, as possibly being a way of doing this, but one thing that slips through the cracks on us, and there's not a lot of them done, but occasionally we have small lots that you have to move a house on. I know I own several of them, and the only board really that right now gets a bite at it is the ZBA, and they're basically there to just grant a variance. But when you're moving a house on a small lot, there's got to be a reason why you're going to move a house, and it could be as simple as relocating the house to bring a well truck in and putting it back in the exact spot. It could be because you need to be working on your drainage. It could be because you need to put in a septic system. But there's really no board that's overseeing that at present. And I guess that's why I was thinking about, is section 304 something we could stick it in?
Do we have that language, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, it would be in your minutes.
Is it in the packet, Jen?
Yeah, we all supplied us minutes in our package. The minutes that we approved at this meeting would be line 306. 306? Of the minutes. But I guess my question would be, right now, I'll make a statement first. Right now, the applicability of the site plan is, the site plan regulation shall apply to all planned non-residential development, multifamily residential development, and the expansion and change of use of the same, non-residential and multifamily residential. If we put it in there, Jen and I were talking that it potentially makes it so that all of the site plan regulations would apply to it. The statement was, in any site, including all residential sites where the primary structure would be relocated on or off the site. What would that do, in your opinion, as to these site plan regulations on a small lot?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jen that,
Because they don't have parking, they don't have
Yeah.
roads.
that'd be a tough situation. But I'm trying to think of another location where you could put it that doesn't fall under that.
I know occasionally, if we have a private road come in front of us, then the planning board gets involved in it because it's on a private road, but if it's on a public road, we don't. Is that in our zoning, Jen, or? do you
Well,
know?
that's a statute that you're talking about.
It's an
for
RSA
building.
statute,
It's an
right?
RSA for building on a private road.
Right. So if it's on a private road, then it comes in front of the planning board, but if it's on a public road, it don't. And that's it. So we've dealt with them on private roads, but not on the public roads.
Yeah.
And I was just curious if you could give that some thought as to
That's a
how
tough one.
we
That's what,
could.
right, that's what I was trying to help them see, if there was somewhere else to accomplish that
Right.
and still get it before the board. But to me, putting it in site plan review for non-residential typically, then all the other criteria, and they'd have to write a waiver for
Everything.
everything. Right.
Extra days for the special education teachers. This was up to 4 additional days to work on case management, and we have carried this budget and adjusted it. In this case, we adjusted it up 3.5% from last year's budget to this year's budget. I did take a look and ask Christine. She was able to pull some historical record for me of fiscal year '23. We spent about $7,400. And in fiscal year '24, we spent $13,183. We have had some, this is overseen by our director, and we've had some turnover, and so I do expect that that will continue to rise, the usage of it and the utilization of that available time. That the entire 20,000 would be a pretty deep cut into that.
Yep.
The rest of the lines here are utilized fully, and so that's the one that was, when I looked at this potential cut, I thought this would be the one that would be impacted if we were to manage it with a $20,000 cut. The rest of them are used fully as budgeted.
So